The Bible holds up Abraham as an example of faith. You can find him described in Romans 4 and Hebrews 11. Let me read you something about him. This is in Romans 4 and verse 21. It says, being fully persuaded that what God had promised, God was able also to perform. And therefore it was imputed to him for righteousness. Now catch this idea. Abraham was fully persuaded that God could do what he said. And because he had a faith that was built on persuasion, that faith was counted for righteousness. You know, in a secular Europe, there's an idea about faith that describes faith as a leap in the dark. Faith as if it's believing something for which you have no evidence. Or faith as if you're believing something when really all the evidence is to the contrary. I want to tell you, that's not the faith the Bible holds up. The Bible talks about a faith that can persuade a man. A faith that's built on evidence. That's the kind Abraham had. And because he was persuaded, he was willing to ignore such changeable things as his own weakness. It says here in verse 20, or in verse 19, and being not weak in faith, he considered not his own body now dead. And it says in verse 20 that he didn't stagger at the promise through unbelief. You know, Abraham didn't think about his own history. He didn't think about his wife's unbelief. He considered only the word of God, and that was sufficient for him. But was that a leap in the dark? No, don't forget, Abraham had evidence. He saw that God cared for him. He saw how God had orchestrated things in his life. He saw how God's principles had protected him from trouble, and how God's mighty angels had delivered him from trouble. Abraham had an experience with God that made faith a living reality. Like Hebrews says about Moses, he endured as seeing him that is invisible. What kind of faith do I have? What do I recommend for you? It's a faith based upon the evidence that God cares and loves us. The fact that he made the peach to taste good and the flower to be beautiful and the butterfly to be nearby. There's evidence if we'll look for it. And when we see it and when we're persuaded, we can put our weight in the Word of God, and that is faith. It's the kind of faith that can be imputed to us the way it was imputed to Abraham.